Hello everyone, a very good morning and welcome to Unacademy's YouTube channel, and today we are back once again with the daily news analysis of 30th of September 2021. So here it is me once again back. Today we are here on this particular session of the daily news analysis, and I just would like to let you all know beforehand again, right? Starting tomorrow we will be starting the new month, that is the month of October. We'll be starting the sessions of that from tomorrow. Okay, so this is something which I just want to tell you also, so that you people don't have to go here and there, because we'll be continuing the same series that we have been taking up. So starting tomorrow, that is of October, we'll be starting on the same channel too. And right, the next important thing is that before specifically about the toppers that we have got, from Unacademy, is definitely an amazing thing, where we've got a lot of learners who have actually secured the top ranks too. And most important thing we have is this, right? Regarding the Unacademy plus subscription discount, the subscription discount is further, generally you will be getting a 10% of discount using the code Ajay IAS 10. Generally you'll be getting a discount of 10% using it, but for 3 days, that is 28th, 29th and 30th, you'll be getting additionally 10%. That is a total of 20% of discount that will be there. The offer will be ending today. So if there is anyone who want to subscribe for the Unacademy, this is the right time for you to get this thing as soon as possible. Okay, so before we go further, right, we have got various batch courses which have been specially curated by the topmost educators on Unacademy for the years of 21, 22 as well as 2023. We have 1 year batches, 2 year batches, and we clearly have various educators who will be taking up with the already planned things very well too. And right, we have optional also which have been taken up by different kind of educators too. And most importantly, on 3rd of this particular October, that is when it comes to the combat test, we'll be having the geography special test will be conducted on 3rd of October. So that's going to be the other interesting thing that you will be having for this particular Sunday, right? So we'll be providing the books and all these things. You people know it very well, right? A very good morning everyone, and we will start the topics now. And today the session could be going a bit lengthier, I would say, because I'll tell you, there are a lot of interesting topics that are there for the discussion today. So we can also do one thing, we can start taking up the topics which are much lengthier and very interesting in the discussion, and then we can come back to these also. Okay, so for this particular thing, yeah, let's start this particular topic of the day. We all knew about some things called as Ordnance Factory Boards, isn't it? The Ordnance Factory Boards are those which actually provide the ammunition that is being used by the different kind of forces in the country. The Ordnance Factory Board is the one which manufactures a lot of things, and it has been a part of government for very long. But some time ago, we already have seen in the earlier discussion that the government has taken up a decision that they will focus on corporatization. They will focus on corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board. So with the corporatization of Ordnance Factory Board, what happens now here is that the Ordnance Factory Board will be made into 7 defense public sector undertakings. This is the proposal which the government has actually brought up. So what is it going to happen? As I told you that it is a decision taken up by the cabinet. So the cabinet has approved, some time ago, that we would like to do the corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board, because this is one of the very, very, very old organization. It was set up long ago in the year 1801, but starting from tomorrow, this is no longer be a part of the government. Rather, there are totally 41 ordnance factories which are there. Now all these 41 ordnance factories will be transferred to 7 new defense public sector undertakings. So as part of the Ordnance Factory Board, it includes 9 training institutes, 3 regional marketing centers, 5 regional controllers of safety. All of these will be taken up to. And now just imagine yourself as an employee of a government. Just imagine yourself that government has considered you as an employee of government. Suddenly government says you will no longer be an employee of government, rather your department will be considered as a public sector undertaking. Is it something which will be affecting you or not? Definitely, because no one knew what is it going to happen. On one side government says we are going to be something like a public sector undertaking employee, no longer a government employee. So that is something which people will not like. So many people, especially the workers federation, have been opposing this kind of proposal too. And now what does this ordnance factory boards generally do? So huge weapons, ammunition, the supplies that are given to the armed forces, to the paramilitary forces, to the police forces, all of these comes from the Ordnance Factory Board run factories. As part of it, they will get both civilian and military grade arms and ammunition, explosives, propellants, chemicals that we use in the missile systems, military vehicles, armored vehicles, optical and electronic devices, parachutes, support equipment, troop clothing, general store items for the armed forces. All of these comes from the Ordnance Factory Board. So this Ordnance Factory Board is such an important body, especially for the defense and security of a nation. But what are the reasons why the government wants to do? So this Ordnance Factory Board's major headquarters are present in Kolkata, and this restructuring of the Ordnance Factory Board has been recommended by a lot of expert committees. For example, there are 4 expert committees have been appointed. In 4 of them, 3 of them have stated this particular case, stating that we have to do reforms in this. The first committee is called TKS Nair Committee of 2000, Vijay Kelkar Committee of 2005, and Vice Admiral Raman Puri Committee of 2015. There is a 4th committee that was set up by the former Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar. It is chaired by Lieutenant General D.B. Shekatkar, and that's what we popularly call it as Shekatkar Committee. Right? So this Chakar Committee stated that rather than doing the corporatization things and all, the committee stated do regular audits. They stated that do the regular audits properly of the ordnance factory boards of all ordnance units based on how the past performance is there. So the central government has been focusing on doing this corporatization right now, depending on various kind of recommendations too. But the major reason why they want to do the corporatization is this, that once you do the corporatization, all these now will fall under the Companies Act. So they say once these fall under Companies Act, they say the services will become efficient, the products will become cost competitive, and they will also enhance their quality of the products. This is something that could be expected from this. It is also stated that the Ordnance Factory Board's monopoly has led to innovation, because what happens now, simple thing is, when there is a market and there are multiple players involved in this race, obviously what happens when multiple people are there, people try to compete. Am I right? People try to compete among themselves. So with this competition, what happens? You will bring up the innovation. But the Ordnance Factory Board has a clear monopoly. So what happens in this kind of situations? There is no possibility of innovation. So due to the monopoly of Ordnance Factory, the innovation has dried up. There is low productivity. Production cost has increased. Flexibility is not that much, because at the higher manager levels it has become really tough. Because this directly functioned in the Ministry of Defence, the Ordnance Factory Board and its factories could not get much profits. So as they are not getting much profits, there could be no incentives for the work that is being done by them. So this is one of the reasons why they say we need to do the corporatization. So the talks which government started with the Workers' Federation have not yielded any kind of good results too. Employees says that the corporatization is a move towards privatization. They say we are experiencing, there could be a possibility that tomorrow our jobs could be taken off. And now we will not be able to survive this kind of situation that we are living in. So the federations stated that the factories have been innovative, they've always proven their worth as a war reserve, and many products of Ordnance Factory Board are even now they're exported. So on one side, some people say there is no innovation, nothing. On the other side, these employees federation says there is a great thing. And some time ago, as I told you, an ordinance has been brought up about Ordnance Factory Boards. So corporatization is something which the current government has one of the very important idea in 167 transformative ideas that they want to implement in first 100 days of the government in 2019. So in 2020, when the details of these Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative are being released, the finance minister has announced that the decision to corporatize the Ordnance Factory Board for improving the autonomy, accountability and efficiency is the one that is the reason why we will be doing this. So government appointed a kind of a consortium also that is led by KPMG Advisory Services. They'll be going on with some kind of strategy and consultation things on also. But right after that day, the defense minister, an empowered group of ministers for corporatization was formed, and the defense minister is the chairperson of it too. He will look after the entire process and all, and they will also safeguard the wages and retirement benefits of the employees. In October 2020, the government even declared a proposed strike by the federations as invalid and illegal. They cannot do any strikes and all. So nothing has happened right now. So because there are some particular things, because government even brought these particular ordnance factories under the Essential Defense Services Ordinance 2. So which means they cannot do the strikes also. And there are about 75,000 workers in all the factories. They feel that they are mainly affiliated to 3 different federations: All India Defence Employees Federation, Federation of Left Unions, then this is a Federation of Left Unions. Then we have as Indian National Defence Workers Federation, it's INTUC related, and Bharatiya Pratiraksha Mazdoor Sangh, it's something related to the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh. So 3 federations are there. When the government first proposed this in 2019, they have formed an unlikely joint front, which is generally not seen. So they have been opposing this kind of things too. But they say, in one perspective, the government's decision of June 2021 as a good news for the private corporations and the foreign arms manufacturers too. So right now, this is becoming a big news right now, because from tomorrow it's going to become corporatized. And 7 PSUs, I told you, right? All these Ordnance Factory Boards will be converted into 7 PSUs, which includes Munitions India Limited, Armored Vehicles Nigam Limited, Advanced Weapons and Equipment India Limited, Troop Comforts Limited, Yantra India Limited, India Optel Limited, Gliders India Limited. All of these PSUs will run certain kind of clusters of ordnance factories, which would be involved in the manufacturing of the categories. They will do the training and all. This is something which has happened right now. So this is all about right now the issue is about. Is it clear? If there is any news or any kind of doubt you have about the Ordnance Factory Boards, now you may please feel free to let me know. So this is about the Ordnance Factory Boards, the first topic of the day, and we are not yet done. We have a lot of things to be discussed. So hope that is clear. Now, we'll move to the next one. Next one is an interesting one too. Yesterday, while we were having a discussion, I did tell you about what is it called. I did tell you about it already, about the thing that is done by the Taliban in Afghanistan. They stated we will adopt the constitution of 1964. This is something which is a kind of announcement that has been made by the Taliban. So today we'll try to understand what is this 1964 constitution, how it has been evolved, and are Taliban going to implement it directly? So what is it going to happen? So Taliban has announced that they would like to implement the temporarily they will bring up the provisions of 1964 Constitution of Afghanistan, which are not in conflict with Islamic law or Sharia. They say very clearly, we will implement the temporarily, for now, we will implement the 1964 Constitution, and we will ensure that those provisions which are not in conflict with Islamic law or Sharia will be used to rule the country. And the Taliban spokesperson stated that this group is in the process of bringing up a new constitution which could be completed by 2022. Till now, the Taliban have not released any kind of document or policy statement about how they are going to govern. But this announcement is definitely a kind of a progress, isn't it? Because they have not come across with any kind of output about how they are going to govern. But now they say some kind of change. And now, this Taliban would like to remove certain kind of provisions because they want to implement the Sharia law in particular. At the same time, they are implementing the constitution too. So just because they are implementing this particular Sharia law and this particular constitution, if there is something that is going against the Sharia law in the constitution, they say very clearly that will not be implemented, and they will decide what is to be implemented and what is not. It's not like they will implement the constitution for completely. And the constitution, when you talk about, it allows for justice and governance to be conducted along the lines of law. And this law is to be drafted by the various bodies of the states. And now the law itself is prohibitive. So if the citizens have some grievances, there's nothing going on right now. And since the Taliban took Kabul, there has been a great disconnect about what they have been doing and what they have done. What they said is something different, and what they are doing is different. What they said they will be doing is different from what they are doing. So what is this 1964 constitution? Since Afghanistan became a sovereign nation in 1747, it has 4 different kind of constitutions. Okay, so Afghanistan had 4 constitutions since it became a sovereign nation in 1747. And the first ever one was in the 1890s. Okay, so what they have created is the kind of system of government they have created is a centralized monarchy. What they have created is a centralized monarchy all over the country. Okay, then in 1923 they have got a second constitution. It was drafted and this established king as the main sovereign. They have created what is it called as king as the main sovereign authority. Islam is a state religion and Sharia is a basis for the judicial system. This is something the second constitution has decided. Then in 1963, under the rule of King Zahir Shah, Afghanistan brought its most ambitious constitution, which came into law in 1964. And this constitution of 1964 wants to convert the country of Afghanistan into a democracy, and they want to bring up a socio-economic modernization has to be brought up in Afghanistan. This is something which has been planned. So what have they stated here? What are the important provisions here? We'll try to look into those things also. It's interesting actually. If you cannot remember them, it's totally fine. But I feel this is interesting, so that's the reason I am taking up this today. So some of the elements they say in the Constitution of 1964 is this. They will create 2 houses of parliament, where lower house would be elected through universal suffrage. That's the first thing. And now it also established that the laws enacted by the parliament would supersede Sharia law. This basically is reversed. For Taliban, Sharia law is above everything. But for the constitution, any law that is being passed by the parliament will overcome Sharia, will supersede Sharia. But for the Taliban, they are reversing it. Any law that could be there, Sharia is above everything. Understood? This is the major difference. Now, the constitution continued for 8 years. This particular king was overthrown because it has a really great ambitions, but it is considered as a kind of a large political failure. The cabinet and the legislature were obviously deadlocked almost all the time. They are unable to pass a lot of legislations and all. So in 2004, after the NATO has invaded Afghanistan, a new constitution was adopted, which stated that a presidency has to be there and equal rights for the women has to be there. But the kind of administration that happened in Afghanistan is a kind of centralized system of governance. So the 2004 constitution was seen as a very huge document which is dominated by the Western values and educated the Kabul elite. But the Taliban has rejected the constitution totally because it's an illegal entity and it's a product of US imperialism, so we don't want that to be implemented. But now, as they have announced that they would like to implement the 1964 constitution, today we will try to understand what exactly these provisions consist of. So with respect to the state, what they have called it as, non-Muslims were not allowed, I mean to say that there were not many restrictions on the non-Muslims. So as part of the constitution of 1964, the non-Muslim citizens they are free to perform their rituals within the limits determined by the laws. There has to be a public decency and public peace, and the non-Muslims can do their rituals. No one is opposing it. And now this has allowed freedom of religion, because it states that religion can be practiced within the limits determined by the laws and it is open to interpretation by the Taliban. But under the Sharia law, Taliban can prohibit any public expression of religion that does not align with the Islamic values. So the constitution says one thing and the Sharia it is different. And the group stated they will respect the rights of Sikhs and other religious minorities in Afghanistan. But during their rule between 1996 and 2001, religious minorities were persecuted. Symbols of other religion, like the Bamiyan Valley, has been completely destroyed by these particular people. So what they say and what they do could be different. We just have to wait and see. And the next provision when it comes to this, the first one the constitution talked about is on the state, and next one is about the king. So now earlier there was a king for the 1964 constitution. Now they don't have any king. So the Taliban will replace the powers of the king, where the powers could be given to either acting prime minister or the supreme leader. Okay, and now the chance is this, the supreme leader could be given with the powers given to the king, because prime minister is a separate entity and this supreme leader is a separate entity. And the most interesting point, in UK we do have a kind of saying, a king can do no wrong. I mean, even if a king does a wrong, it is not a mistake. Similarly, and the same thing is being implemented here, the king is not accountable and shall be respected by all. And if there is abdication of the king or death of the king, the throne of the king shall be passed on to the eldest son, and the eldest son of the king lacks the qualifications decided by the constitution, then the throne should be given to the next generations. I mean to say next son and next son and next son. And king have no accountability, king cannot be questioned, and they are completely protected from the scrutiny too. Now, is this what a democracy is? Definitely it is not. But this is definitely not a kind of democracy that people like. But on the other side, this is something that's practiced everywhere. For example, in UK also, king and queen will not be bothered much. So Taliban has a lot of internal power struggles, especially when Mullah Yaqub, the current defense minister, has fought for the role of supreme commander in 2016. So if the Taliban want to establish a hereditary leadership, this person, Mr. Yaqub, he's a son of Taliban's founder Mullah Omar, will have a great claim to the power now. So which means other leaders like Haqqani, Sirajuddin Haqqani, Mullah Baradar will be thrown aside. Because there is not much known about the supreme leader, so it's not yet clear whether he has any children who will become the next ones and all. So this could be a kind of problem. And in the past, people with the strong connections to Mullah Omar have assumed the senior leadership positions, but the group has not followed a traditional system of primogeniture. It's not like, they have followed the next generation things. Understood? Now with respect to the basic rights and duties of people, the people of Afghanistan, without any discrimination or preference, have equal rights. And they have obligations before the law. So Taliban have stated they would be open to women in government, but their cabinet has no women. On one side, Taliban says they want more role of women, but there is no women in the cabinet. And now they say they would respect women's rights to education. But now what they are doing is they are not allowing women from the universities, and there have to be a lot of restrictions. Last time when they were in power, women, Tajiks and other non-Pashtun groups were discriminated. They were discriminated, but this time we just have to wait and see. And no one can be punished except by the order of a competent court. This is something which is there. Only after an open trial is held in the presence of accused, and no Afghan accused of a crime can be extradited to a foreign state. The original constitution had legislative laws which will supersede a Sharia law, but Taliban is basically a kind of reverse thing. And now the other provision that could also be adopted is that many members of Taliban, including their senior leadership, are wanted for a lot of crimes, including the charges of terrorism. So this may cause some kind of diplomatic issues for them too. Freedom of thought and expression is inviolable. So every Afghan has a right to express their thoughts in speech, in writing, in pictures, or by any other means according to the provisions of the law. Every Afghan has a right to print and publish ideas in accordance with the provision of law without submission in advance to the authorities of state. Education is the right of every Afghan and shall be provided free of charge by the state and the citizens of Afghanistan. So freedom of speech and all, these are the things. Getting my points, right? So it's a simple thing. It's a simple thing. Just give me 1 minute now, if you can. Yeah, just 1 minute. So moving on to the next part, what they have talked about Shura. Shura is nothing but the parliament. Okay, Shura stands for the parliament. So what they are talking about the Shura. So the 1964 constitution says that we need two houses of legislature. One is the House of People, which is elected directly, like that of Lok Sabha, and the next one is House of Elders. They are the members appointed directly, like that of Rajya Sabha. Indirectly they are appointed like that of Rajya Sabha. And now the constitution mentions how the houses are to interact with the prime minister and his cabinet, and how they should be accountable to the people. For example, the parliament in Afghanistan is the one which talks about the will of the people and represents the entire nation. The members of House of People, which they call it as Volesi Jigra, shall be elected by the people of Afghanistan in a free, universal, secret and direct election in accordance with the provisions of the law. The Prime Minister and Ministers are responsible to the House of People for the general policy of government and individually for their duties. And Taliban have indicated they would be open to free elections. But yes, there is no progress in this matter, because they have a constitution in the future, and now they are expecting that soon we may come across with elections also. But still, whatever is being implemented is only temporary. What they are implementing is based on Sharia law, and there have been a lot of issues too. But still, we have to wait for some more time to see about what Taliban could do in this particular matter. Okay, so that is something which I want to tell you about it. So these two articles have been brought up, especially by the Indian Express is something that has been published. These two articles, so it's going to be a very important thing. And then we have a next one is about advanced versions of Akash missile. So DRDO has recently conducted the first ever flight test of new version of Akash missile called as Akash Prime. Earlier, the DRDO has done the test of another version of Akash called Akash New Generation in January. So what is the difference in these new versions? Because these are surface to air missiles, and what is their operational significance? So when you talk about Akash is a part of the program called IGMDP, the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program that has been brought up by the government. So the initial trials that have been done were focused on neutralization, were done in late 1990s and 2000s. After that, user trials have been done by the Indian Armed Force, Indian Air Force, Indian Army, all of these. So it is named after, what is it called? Akash. Akash is nothing but the sky. Okay, it's named after a Sanskrit word, and it's a short range surface to air missile. The purpose is to have an air defense so that the vulnerable areas wherever are there, we have to protect them. And this Akash weapon system can engage with multiple targets in group mode or in autonomous mode. It has inbuilt electronic counter measures too, which means that it has mechanisms that can counter the electronic systems. Whichever is coming up, they would be able to deal with them too. So it has been configured on a mobile platform. A full Akash missile has a launcher. A full Akash missile will have a launcher. It will have a set of missiles, a control center, a built-in mission guidance system, and a C4I, that is command, control, communication and intelligence. So here, they would have these particular centers, and ultimately it's like they have been providing a greater security to the Indian defense without any doubt. But after the induction of earlier version of Akash was done in 2010s, the Indian Air Force and Army, which actually right now deal with different kind of groups, they have got some more things. And according to the Ministry of Defense, Akash missile system is 96% indigenized. That's an interesting fact, isn't it? 96% indigenized one is definitely a good thing. And this is the highest proportion of indigenization that we have. And in 2020, the cabinet also has approved export of this Akash missiles to the friendly countries which are interested in this too. Okay, so this is about the past of Akash, but what is the right now? What is going on right now is the advanced versions of Akash, that's Akash Prime and Akash NG. So initial version of Akash has an operational range of 27 to 30 kilometers and a flight altitude of 18 kilometers. Whereas Akash Prime, which has been done, it has done the successful test flight very recently on Monday. So it has been done in Chandipur of Odisha. It has the same range as it of earlier version. Then what is the most important changes? That it has a new addition is that the indigenous active radio frequency seeker. So that when it is hitting the target, that would do that with a much more accuracy. So Akash Prime is for the accuracy. And now other things that they have done here is more reliable performance under the low temperature environment, especially in the higher altitudes. They will have much better performance. And they have made, after receiving a feedback from the Indian Air Force and the Army for the deployment, how you are going to do in high altitude regions too. And we already have done Akash NG also. Akash NG is also a surface to air missile. It is designed again for the IAF, the Indian Air Force, and the aim of them is very specifically to intercept high maneuvering aerial threats that have low radar cross section. So where there are certain kind of any kind of missiles that are entering into India, which are of with a greater speed and all, but there is a less detection of radar. So this could be of some great importance for them. So they would have a much striking threat whatever is going on. So the NG will have an extended range up to 70 kilometers. It is much thin, light, and has much smaller ground system for the footprint also. So this will be one of the other important thing that has been brought up. So these are about Akash NG and Akash Prime. So this is completely a kind of update that we are seeing, and the indigenization content is also something that has been increased with respect to the Akash missile. Okay, now the next one. We have heard a lot about Atal Tunnel earlier, but now today we are going to discuss about another interesting tunnel too, because very recently it has made a lot of news. So it's very important that we have to see about what is the importance of it here. Yeah, just give me 1 minute. So Zojula Tunnel, this is the one which is going to connect Kashmir to Ladakh. That is, the two union territories will be connected. For example, if you can see, you can see this particular route from Srinagar to Kargil. This is something you have a very long tunnel. And in this region, in this region you have a particular region. You can see this one, the one which is highlighted. So this is the one which is covered with this particular tunnel. This is a region which is covered with a tunnel. So it is from this particular, Kangan to Sonmarg. This is the tunnel that they have actually taken into consideration. So government is now trying its best to complete the Zojula Tunnel. It's one of the most important infrastructure project in Kashmir and Ladakh. They want to finish it before 2024 Republic Day. Very recently, the Union Ministry of Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari has inspected some part of this particular tunnel. So this tunnel is going to be the longest road tunnel. The distance of 14.15 kilometers. It will be India's longest road tunnel and Asia's longest bi-directional tunnel. It's going to be Asia's longest bi-directional tunnel. So it will connect from a place called Zimor on National Highway 1 to Zojula Tunnel. It will be done between Sonmarg and Kargil. If you can see this particular thing which is going on. So here you have what is it called as Sonmarg. So it would be in a path, it would be in a particular path that is taken between Sonmarg to Kargil. That is something which will become. So here the first part will involve, they will focus on firstly expansion of a highway, and then there will be another expansion of other highway will be taken up. So ultimately they will bring up different kind of areas in this tunnel and they want it to be expanded. And second part is going to be the most important, that's 14.15 kilometers Zojula Tunnel. It has a width of 9.5 meters and height of 7.57, and it has two lanes in the shape of a horseshoe. You can say a horseshoe would be something like this. So it would be this particular shape that it will have. So with this, once it is done, this will allow the travel between Srinagar and Ladakh throughout the year. Generally, what happens is due to the change in the monsoon things and all, there has been a reduction about what is happening here. But now, once it is completed, this tunnel will allow travel between Srinagar and Ladakh throughout the year. And the distance from what you call the Baltal to, very specifically, I can tell you right now. But the distance between the places called Baltal to Minamarg will come down to 13 kilometers, and it was earlier 40 kilometers. 40 kilometers, 13 kilometers is a great transformation. Yes, now the time will be cut by almost 1.5 hour journey would be reduced, and it could become less burdensome too. So this will integrate the development of both the Jammu and Kashmir as well as the Ladakh too. This is what we have is about Zojula Tunnel, a very important tunnel for the infrastructure thing. We will be definitely discussing it before 2024 once again, once it is launched, we could say. Okay, right. So the next one about the DGCA, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. So from 31st of January, who are the flight crew members are there and air traffic controllers are there in India, they will be tested for psychoactive substances, like they will be tested for cannabis and cocaine as per the new rules of DGCA. But why DGCA has brought these kind of rules? So the DGCA has come across with this kind of rules stating that there has been a great usage of the psychoactive substances, their availability and increasing number of users. Now, if people are using these kind of things and being a part of a crew, particularly first, that would cause a great concern to the safety of the aviation, right? So that is the first thing. Earlier, just before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation has issued the draft rules where they stated that they have proposed to set up the diagnostic infrastructure to conduct the test. Before the COVID-19 pandemic itself, DGCA has come across with this kind of rules that they would like to do the proper testing of these particular stuff. But now, just few weeks ago, they came across with another rules also where they gave the responsibility of conducting this test to the airlines itself. And the air traffic services, whoever are there, they are providing, they also have to do the testing for alcohol testing also. And in India, the entire thing of air traffic services are taken care by Airports Authority of India. So what are the rules now? If there is any scheduled commercial airline or air navigation service providing is going on, they will have to carry out random drug testing of at least 10% of the flight crew members and air traffic controllers employed by them. Okay, 10% of air traffic controllers and the flight crew members must be checked randomly. And the commercial aircraft operators, maintenance and repair organizations, flying training organizations all have to carry out the drug test before employing a person or admitting a trainee pilot. These organizations have to test if there is any opportunity, all those personnel too, who have used a, who have refused a drug test, that they cannot be allowed in general too. Aviation workers will be tested for all these kind of drugs like amphetamine, cannabis, cocaine, opium, barbiturates, benzodiazepine. So at any point of time, what they say is, benzodiazepine, they say all these will be tested and any positive test must be reported to the DGCA. If a person is tested positive, what will they do? And these employees, if there is anyone tested, they have to be rehabilitated by the organization before they are returned back to the active duty. And the cases must be reported to DGCA on a 6-month basis also. And now, if the drug test is non-negative, then the employee will be immediately removed from the duty till a confirmatory report is received. And if the confirmatory test which is done for the first time is also positive, then they have to be going to the de-addiction centers and then they have to do the rehabilitation and then they have to be brought back. So the major purpose is that these people must be having a negative test report. But if they are repeating again and again, their license will be suspended for 3 years, and if they are tested for third time also, their license will be completely cancelled according to the according to the DGCA, that is Directorate General of Civil Aviation. Okay. And one more topic, I think PLI for textiles, we already had a discussion about it, right? PLI for the textiles, we already had a discussion some time ago. So these are the articles whatever I've taken till now are the articles published in the Indian Express. Now we'll start looking at the articles of the Hindu. Now, for many people who celebrate the festival of Diwali, Diwali is a festival of crackers for many people. Diwali is a festival which people use for various, celebrations and all. But the Supreme Court has stated that a preliminary inquiry has been done by the CBI into the firecracker industry, especially in Tamil Nadu and all. They say that there has been a violation because they've used a kind of ingredient which is banned, like barium and its salts. So it was in the last year, March, the Supreme Court ordered the CBI Joint Director in Chennai to conduct a detailed probe into allegations of violation of the court ban in 2018, and CBI has filed a kind of report into the court. And the bench stated that, the chemical analysis of the samples stated very clearly that they do have the barium content. And the court also stated that the loose quantities of barium were purchased from the market, and the firecrack workers, firecrack covers did not show the manufacturing date or expiry date. And the court even discussed why the manufacturers should not be penalized for this. Because some people, now the manufacturers have stated that, there are thousands of families who are dependent on the industry. Now the Supreme Court says, there is a time we need to have a balance between the employment, unemployment and right to life and health of citizens. This is very important. So we cannot sacrifice the lives of many people just for few people's life. Their prime focus according to them is the right to life of innocent people. So this is something which they are talking about right now, because October, November is a kind of festive seasons, wedding seasons. So this crackers usage is done a lot. So now this is kind of an issue for now. So every day there is a violation going on, be it a religious procession, be it a political rally, everywhere we are doing it. So we have to fix a liability. For example, they say that if the police commissioner is made liable, then nothing will happen. But the liability is not much. The liability is not made on the police commissioner. So then what happens? When the liability is not on police commissioner, then all these things will obviously happen. Isn't it? When I make someone responsible for this particular thing, they will ensure that that won't happen. But if you are not putting any kind of responsibility, then obviously this would be happening. Isn't it? That's a point. Now, about the Nipah antibodies, they say very clearly, I'll tell you in short about this particular thing. The bats have been found which have been taken up from places like, Kudiyatur and Tamaraseri in Kozhikode district of, Kerala. They have found the Nipah antibodies in the bats. So they say very clearly that the bat studies have been stated and they have found that there has been evidence of antibodies that are present in the bats, and that makes it very clear according to them that this particular outbreak of Nipah which has been there in Kozhikode did not originate from the bats. So they are not very sure about what is the route of transmission to, but they are doing the surveillance too. But the health minister says if there are no more case of Nipah comes up in next 21 days too, then obviously they say they have controlled the outbreak of Nipah virus in the state of Kerala. They say. Yes, that's it. And the next topic is about Army to get 25 advanced light helicopters at 3,850 crores. So the Defence Acquisition Council headed by the Defence Minister has approved the acquisition of 3 services which is estimated about 13,165 crores, and one of the most important thing is about the helicopters, the guided munitions and rocket ammunition. So all these of this particular projects worth 13,165 crores, 11,486 crores worth procurement will be from the domestic sources itself. They are looking into the need, what is the need of advanced light helicopter squadron for army. They are looking after how we could use in this kind of cases. They already had a kind of deal about 25 advanced light helicopters will be taken. That would be done from Hindustan Aeronautics Limited under Buy Indian IDDM. IDDM here very specifically means indigenous design and also development and manufacturing. That would be done with respect to us only. Right? So they say about this particular thing. Now we all knew about a scheme called Midday Meal Scheme, which provides a food, to the people, especially to the school children who are going to the schools. So now the central government has rebranded this midday meal scheme to give a hot cooked meal to 11.8 crore government school students from class 1 to class 8. Now the cabinet has renamed it as PM Poshan, that is Poshan Shakti Nirman scheme. So from the next financial year, this will cover around 24 lakh children who are studying in Bal Vatikas also. Bal Vatikas is nothing but the pre-primary education. That is before they are taken into the schools, they would be pre-primary now. So even they will be covered from next financial year. But this time, the budget for the midday meal scheme remain unchanged, but additional 266 crores is expected because now the central government is focusing on the Bal Vatika students also. And the extension of the midday meals to the pre-primary students also was incorporated in the NEP. But one thing which was implemented in NEP has not been taken is that about breakfast to the school students. So the education minister did not mention anything about that too, because there has been a fund crunch, they say, due to a severe fund crunch. Because this year, this year, if they really want to start provide the breakfast to the people, that require an allocation of budget of around 4,000 crores. But this year, what happened here is that rather than increase in the budget that is being done to the education ministry, there has been a decrease in the budget by almost 5,000 crores. So this is something which they have brought up. So the main objective is to provide the nutrition to the people. And the next one is about the foreign secretary's visit to Colombo. So very soon the foreign secretary of India will be visiting, Colombo from 2nd of October to 5th of October, right, where they try to have a greater engagement. Because few days ago, right, the external affairs minister of India and Sri Lanka did meet at the sidelines of UNGA. So they are talking about a lot of things. And when you talk about the issue between Sri Lanka and India, one issue that we often find is the issue of Tamils, right? So this one issue should not be a kind of problem, especially for our progress, our cooperation. So they are asking, the Indian External Affairs Minister stated very clearly that expectations of Tamil people for equality, justice, peace and dignity within a united Sri Lanka have to be fulfilled. The Tamil and Muslim minorities continue to point harassment is being done by the authorities in Sri Lanka. They have been receiving threats to the land owned by the civilians. So right now they have been trying their best to address this particular matter, and Sri Lankan government is expected to address the matter of ethnic issue that is happening too. So but though it is basically going on, but we are expecting great support. At the other time, when it comes to relationship between India and Sri Lanka, there has been a kind of issues between their relationship, right? Now that needs to be taken care, and the development projects of India have been going on a slow pace. So they are trying their best to have a kind of closer cooperation. That is other thing we have. And the last topic we have here is, so there is one more topic that is left about the production linked incentive scheme for the textile sector. If you want me to cover that, I'll cover it after this. Okay. So now the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation is one thing which has been created generally the ECGC is for to encourage the exports from the country. Okay, so now the cabinet has approved infusing more than 6,000 crores into entities which are providing export insurance cover, so that additional exports could go worth of 5.6 lakh crores in the next 5 years. So they approved listing the state-run Export Credit Guarantee Corporation on the stock exchanges also. And this will create especially about 62 lakh more jobs according to the Commerce Ministry. And by September 21st, India's exports have already touched $185 billion. This is the highest in India's history. In the first 6 months of financial year, and there are 10 more days are remaining, they say, a kind of a great increase in the exports have been going on. So the cabinet is expecting more exports have to be promoted. This is something which has been mentioned. Okay. So these are the topics we do have. There is one more topic left, as I told you. It's about the production linked incentive scheme. If that is done, we are done for the day. Shall we go with that, or do you want me to skip this? Yeah. One more topic we do have. Yes. So about production linked incentive scheme. So what is a production linked incentive scheme in particular? whenever you talk about production linked incentive scheme, what is it? So the major purpose of production linked incentive scheme is this: we need to increase the production that is being done so that we could get some kind of incentives. So the government has notified around 10,683 crores production linked incentive scheme for textiles, which will particularly focus on man-made fiber apparel and technical textiles. So here they would focus on providing incentives to about 14 categories of man-made fiber fabrics, 10 categories of technical textiles and man-made fiber apparel. So here their purpose, as I told you, is that they will focus on providing incentives, especially those particular fabrics which have been, completely woven fabrics of nylon, polyester and man-made fibers too. We know about technical textiles, for example. Technical textiles are those which we use in a lot of places. For example, defense purpose, they use bulletproof jackets. That's a technical textile. Fighter aircraft, they use from jackets. That's a technical textile. The cloths that we use in the submarines, the tents, mobile textiles, all these, safety airbags, paracords, all these are generally technical textiles too. So they would like to incentivize, if there is any production of these textiles going on, they wanted to provide this kind of incentives too. But who are eligible for the incentives? So the first phase of the scheme will be open to those producers who are investing at least 300 crores in the plant, machinery, equipment and civil work. And these producers will get incentives under the scheme once they achieve a turnover of at least 600 crores. Once they achieve a turnover of at least 600 crores, they will get this particular incentives. And the second phase of the scheme, the producers investing rupees 100 crores and generating a turnover of at least 200 crores will receive. First phase is for investments of 300 crores and turnover of 600 crores. And the second phase, investment of 100 crores, turnover of 200 crores. So look at the different kind of projects and they will get a lot of incentives. The government would provide a kind of discounts on the kind of loan amount and the interest amounts. All these kind of things could be taken care by them. Okay. So as I told you guys already that we have a lot of topics to be covered today and fortunately we were able to finish them. But yeah, the most important topics will continue to be about the Ordnance Factory Board, about what has been done by the Taliban issue. That is also going to be another important issue for us. So all these things are extremely important. So please focus on them. Right? I'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. once again with the October month. 1st of October will start the session. That's from tomorrow we'll start the session. And today we'll have a session at 2 p.m. of the MCQ session as usually. So that's all for the day, and I really appreciate your patience, whoever is attending the live and taking such of effort and listening the entire session. I really appreciate that too. And yes, see you all tomorrow at 11:30, and do not forget to use the code Ajay IAS 10 for getting a discount on Unacademy subscription. Today is the last day where you will be getting 20% discount today, and from tomorrow it's again going to be a 10% one only. That's all for the day. Thank you and